So, Tina, we are so happy to have you here. As I said earlier, I've already heard a good majority of your story, and it is so good. And it's so riveting. And to see that smile on your face and your just beautiful glow really makes me curious, and Lizzie too, on how in the world that you got yourself from point A to point B. So we are really, really interested to hear your story and all of the crazy dynamics you went through. So Tina, introduce yourself, anything you want to tell, and tell us your story.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on your podcast. So thanks, ladies, for that. And it was lovely chatting with you the other day. Your story is fascinating as well. So I'm a Gen Xer, and the typical things that Gen X went through, right? Our parents were all working, and we raised ourselves, and we know what Gen X has been through for Gen X. But for me, there was a bit of an added difficulty to childhood in the way that it even started before my parents got married. My mother was Roman Catholic, French Catholic. We're Canadians. And my father was born in the former Yugoslavia. Being a Serbian man, he was Greek Orthodox. Even those two getting married, they were disowned by their parents, right? So we're talking about religious issues right at the start of this. And so, now you've got two very young, 17 and 19-year-olds trying to raise children on their own without any help at all. So my mother, there's mental illness in my family. My mother is bipolar. So she was really severely abused herself. I understand this now. I did not understand this growing up. She never talked about her past. And she was severely mentally, physically, and emotionally abusive with us. She did what she knew. Broken people raise broken people, right? This is how it goes. We cannot escape this until we heal. Broken people raise broken people. My father escaped Yugoslavia when he was a young boy, 12 or 14, somewhere in there, and came to Canada, and his parents were incredibly physically abusive as well. I imagine there was some mental and emotional there as well, but so it was just a very abusive family, really. We didn't know it was different. We thought everybody, as you do when you're a child, you just think everyone's raised like that. But then when I'm 10 years old, my parents join a very, very fanatical cult-like church. And this was not a church that preached love, the love of God, which is what I know of God. This was a church that was fear-based, right? This is where I say it was cult-like, because anytime you are separated and isolated from the rest of the world, which we were, immediately pulled out of public school, those kinds of things, had to go to the church's school, weren't allowed to have a television or listen to music or have any influence that wasn't coming from one, place. You put the dogma of that kind of religion behind narcissists, and they're going to run with it. And my parents ran with it. This was a newfound, beautiful way to abuse the children and feel good about it. No guilt there, because this comes straight from the Bible. So this was until, I was just barely after my 17th birthday. I left home. I finally had enough. Ironically, my parents are the ones who kicked me out. Because I finally got to go to public school in grade 11, just because we couldn't afford to go to the church's school anymore. We were very poor. And one of the girls got pregnant, and I was trying to be a good Christian to support my friend. And my mother was like, you don't get to hang around with this girl. She's obviously loose and easy and all the words that come with it. And I'm saying to her, I'm throwing scripture at her to say, isn't it Jesus who said not to cast the first stone, and he's who without sin? And I'm quoting years of having the Bible, in school, in church, and everything. Went to church 4 times a week. I know the Bible, and I am throwing scripture, and she can't argue with me because I'm right. And that pissed her off, as you can imagine. So this is how I left home, was because I was actually trying to be a good person. my girlfriend simply asked me to go to the Lamaze classes with her because she didn't want to be alone. And that's all I had asked is, can I go to Lamaze classes? The problem was that we had church on Tuesday nights and I would have skipped church to go to Lamaze classes. This was the issue. So anyways, that's aside. So now I'm a human out there on my own in the world. And I am I don't know it, but I am a broken human being. And I am so desperate for love. Again, I don't know it. But I am so desperate to understand what love means. And over the next, 30 years, 25 years, I date 3 very narcissistic partners in a row. And I have long periods between my partners because I'm broken after these are finished. I am broken and a mess, and I don't understand why nobody loves me. Why can't anybody love me? And why is it that I can only attract this kind of partner? Emotionally unavailable is how I would have described it, because I didn't have these words, narcissists, in my tool belt. Yes, these words weren't around for us in the mainstream just yet. After my 3rd partner, that was enough. I mean, I'm now in my late 40s and I'm going, something's wrong. Something's wrong. And I stopped asking the question, what is wrong with all of the men out there? And I started to ask the question, what is wrong with me that I only attract this kind of man? Something is wrong with me. And I finally shined the light inwards, instead of looking for external reasons. I went inwards, and this is where I sought spiritual help. I buried my childhood. This is a really important piece of the puzzle. I did not remember childhood. My sisters remembered everything. I had some really broad strokes of some really big ticket events that happened that I remembered. I remember my father smashing me with a hammer. Of course, I remember that. I remember him throwing me down the stairs. I remember that. I remember the exorcism that took place in my home when I was 12. That scared the life out of me. I remember these things. But that's it. That's it. I have these little tiny pieces of memory. And I always thought I was better off because I was this happy-go-lucky, travel around the world. I had this kind of exciting life. But the flip side of that was that my relationships were a mess. I mean, a mess. It bled into friendships too. I had so many narcissistic friends. It was amazing how many people I had to remove constantly, in and out of my life. So through the help of this teacher, this spiritual leader that I went to, she helped me to remember my past. It's not necessary to remember all of it to heal. We don't need that trauma on ourselves. I needed enough to be able to heal. And that's all I needed. And that's all I have. And I'm happy with that. Why? I don't need to know every single detail, right? Like it all starts to look the same, doesn't it? Right? Every beating looks the same. So, but as well, she really helped me to understand forgiveness, why it's important, and how to do it. It's easy to say we have to forgive. It's a heck of a lot harder to find the grace to forgive. And for me, that came through just learning more things about, I know our beliefs differ a little bit. We've talked about that. For me, I believe in reincarnation. So for me, it was a matter of sort of understanding how karma works. And this gave me the grace to be able to forgive. But the big puzzle piece for me, really, which I really appreciate that she taught to me, was understanding generational trauma. That it was done to my parents and they did it to me. That whole thing of broken people raise broken people, right? Does it make it okay? No, it doesn't. Does it mean that I turned around and was abusive? No, I wasn't. Does it make me better than them? No, it doesn't. I chose not to have children. I chose not to get married. I chose to break the cycle. At the time, because I was like 13 when I made this decision, I figured not having children was the only way to do that. It's not. Please don't anyone out there think that's the only way. It's really not. If we heal ourselves, we heal our bloodline. And there is so much beauty in that. When we heal ourselves, we heal our entire bloodline. So it's not about not just having kids, but I made that choice. I don't regret it. I wouldn't have been able to handle it at the time. So I learned to forgive. I learned to understand why the trauma is there. I learned to turn inside and do all the things that I thought were so cliche, right? Oh, journal and go inside and it starts with you and all the things that we heard growing up. They're all true. There's a reason that we have these sayings. They're all true. I did exactly that. I journaled like crazy. I did all of these things and it brought me to where I am now. And I don't regret any of it. I don't wish I had a better life or that it had been different for me growing up. I mean, am I happy that I went through those things? No, of course not. But I also understand that the greatest teachers and healers in the world are the people who've been through it. For how can you be a healer or a teacher or even just a spreader of the word like you ladies are on this channel if you haven't been through it yourself? This is how we grow each other and how we relate to each other, right? It doesn't matter. Christians, not Christians, belief systems, we're all here on this planet just trying to get through, right? And I think it's our differences that make us beautiful. And I think we can grow and learn from each other, which is exactly what we were discussing before we hit the record button. And so that's a bit of my story.
Wow. That's incredible. And I loved how you brought it in that we're all here on this planet to really love each other. And the forgiveness is a huge component for a lot of us because it's so easy to say, I need to forgive, but it is harder to really do the healing work so that you can forgive. Because I feel like if we don't forgive, we definitely end up being more victimized from ourselves. Because we stay angry and bitter, therefore they win.
We so often think that by holding on to our pain that we're punishing the other person, but they don't even know we're doing that. They don't care.
I was just about to say they probably most likely don't care, especially when they jump from one relationship to another. As we were also just talking about before we press record, it's just amazing how they can go in one relationship, we're all sitting back here still trying to heal, and it looks like they're doing fine. They just keep moving along, seeing who they can destroy along the way.
The narcissist is the one who's draining you of all your energy, right? That's their whole thing, is to suck you dry, right? To control you. So when you leave that relationship, well, you're the one who was drained. So you've got a lot of healing to do, right? And you're also the one who's probably not the narcissist. Therefore, you're going, how do I not repeat this, right? We're trying to learn and grow, whereas the narcissist is going, my food just disappeared. Because you are food to them. Your energy is feeding their black hole that is their energy system, right? They can never get enough. I feel sorry for them, to be honest, because they don't know love. They'll never know love, and they'll never, ever have satisfaction or true joy. It's why they suck the life out of everyone else and out of the room that they're standing in. They need to go from one energy source right to the next, whereas the one who's all broken and has been drained needs to heal. And yet we just then usually just find that kind of partner again, because until we heal, and I don't just mean recover from that relationship, I mean heal. Go to your own source of why you're attracted to narcissists in the first place, right? This is where the true work begins, so that you never attract that kind of partner again. That's the whole point, right? Is that we don't want to attract those people.
Yep.
Yeah.
And healing is the hard work. And I think we talk about that as well. As there's the 3 phases when you've been in an abusive relationship. We've actually doing a little telesummit on this, but you have the first where you're exiting the relationship and you have to have a safety plan, which may have a whole team in place. Then you have the healing component, and you can't really go to the next one until you go through the healing component, which is where the real hard work comes in. But then the last phase would be, that's when you can go and reinvent yourself. But that healing component is so critical in these situations, but the hardest.
Yeah. We've been given so many masks to wear in our lifetime from society, family, from all kinds of places, the government, that the first part of the healing is to strip away all the things we've been told we are, so we can just be a bare bones nothing and then start building who we are.
That is so well said, Tina. So true. the third part of the telesummit is remaking and refinding who you really are. Because as you know, when you go through these relationships, you're just being what that person wants you to be. You're just trying to make them happy, and you're trying to keep the peace, and you're trying to do all the things to mesh, and mesh in that relationship so that you're aligned with them. But in order to do that, you have to lose yourself, because that's what they demand. So how long did it take you to find yourself, who you actually were?
Oof. Well, so once I met with this teacher, this guru, who helped to walk me through my own childhood trauma, to walk me through my parents so that I could find the empathy and the compassion for them. Then she gave me a little advice on how to forgive. And it was quite interesting, and was just a different take on things. And it just gave me that just little nudge I needed to be able to forgive people who had done me harm. It's not easy to forgive. Like, let's not pretend that it is. And yet the more you do it, then it becomes actually really easy. Like, it really does, like anything in life. So one of the things that happened is that after I went through all of this spiritual teacher was saying to me, you need to write a book about this. And I was like, oh, no, don't make me do that. Because I hadn't started healing yet, right? I'd just been like smashed in the face with this last breakup, and I was having myself a spiritual awakening, and I was in this place going, oh my God, what is happening to me? And so I sought help, because I needed help. I could see that I was floundering. And so she said, we want you to write this book. And, if you're going through it, other people are. And if you have this story, other people do. And like we just said, this is how we grow each other, and how we teach each other, and how we help humanity. So she said, I want you to write this book. And while you're writing it, you're going to heal. And that will be your gift to you. And then your gift to the world will be to share your very personal story with the world, so that hopefully other people will find healing. And then you will follow it up with a practical workbook, a healing workbook. So that was kind of the whole big picture. So she said to me, you'll start writing it, and it'll take you 2 years. And I thought, when am I supposed to do that? I'm a tour guide. I have seasonal work. I usually have the winter off, but once I go back to work, I am not available. And she said, don't you worry, you'll find the time. Boom, COVID hits. 2 years without a job. She knew. And that was the heavy lifting for me, was those 2 years, because I had never journaled before. I had never written a book before. So now I'm not just journaling. I'm journaling on speed. I'm telling my whole story. And because I don't know where it's going, I'm just writing. I mean, the first one was like five books in one. It was so enormous, right? I just was writing because I didn't know where I was going or what I was doing. And I would write and write and write. And then I would get writer's block, and I'd go, I don't understand. I know what's happening next. So I know what I'm trying to say. What's the problem? And then I would realize my own soul was saying to me, no, you don't get to move forward until you heal that. Well, you just wrote about that right there. No, you don't get to write the whole book and then go back and work on healing. Nuh-uh. You're journaling about it. It's fresh. It's new. And in order to put it in a book so that you paint the picture so that people are in the book, right? You have to relive it to do that. So why wouldn't you take that moment to heal it then? You're already in it. So it was never a hurry for me to write the book. It was never about the end game, because of what I was gaining all along the way. So I'd say the first heavy lifting was 2 years. I did 4 more edits. And every time I went through that book, it was the same process. Stop, heal, stop, heal, stop, heal, stop, heal. It went a lot faster because I had healed the big things, and it was just more the layers, right? Because we never stop healing. There is already so many layers to healing. So it's been a 4-year process, but I'd say the first 2 years was heavy lifting, if I can say it like that, because I was writing the memoir, so it would make sense.
I think there's a lot of good that did come out of COVID, and this is one of them, because it does make you kind of go in that cocoon phase of the healing process, because you're by yourself. You're stuck. The best thing to do is either you're going to veg in front of the TV or read a lot of books. You immersed yourself in your journaling journey. That's wonderful. I love it. Yep.
I love the part where you mentioned that you were going through your book and writing it, and then something would trigger you and you would feel all of that, and then you would stop, and then you would go through a healing process in order to move forward with your book, and you would not move forward until that was done. What did that look like when you had that memory or had that thing that you were writing about? What did you do to heal from that sting?
There'd be a couple of things that would happen. Sometimes I'd just be writing. So also because I had blocked childhood, there was an unblocking that was happening, right? There was so much going on. It was crazy. So I would go into meditation a lot. Again, I'm just more on the spiritual side. So prayer, meditation, it's all the same. I would go into meditation and I'd have like just a flash of a memory, and I'd know that that was being unlocked for me to be able to think. So then sometimes I'd be writing about it. I'd go back and I'd read it and I'd go, ugh, that's dry. Like as a reader, I'm reading this, I'm not in the picture, right? I'd be writing about something super gross and painful, like my second partner that was a drug addict. So that was ugly. I mean, it was a coke addict, so it got really ugly, as you can imagine. I'd be writing about him and I'd go, all right, how did that make me feel? Oh my God. If you ask the question, it's going to come. And all of a sudden it would just wash over me, right? I'm trying to remember something from 20 years ago and I'd go, how did that make me feel? And all of a sudden I'd be in it, crying, snot pouring out of my nose. My stomach is in knots, and I'd start typing, oh, this is how it feels, right? And then I'd go, now shut it off. Like, okay, I thank you. So then it was like, well, now what? And so then the beauty, like you said, for me, this wasn't for everybody, of COVID was that I was cocooned. I was isolated. I had no excuses. I had no distractions, and I had nowhere to go. I was living with my demons, quite literally. That was the only thing I was living with, because I lived by myself. So that was all I had in my space, was my demons and my past. And so I would then go, how do I heal this? Like, okay, forgive. Okay, we forgive, right? But how do we truly forgive? Because I tried to forgive my mother for 20 years and it just kept coming back, right? And also she just kept doing things. So it's like, oh, how do you forgive someone when they don't change? Right. So for the first time in my life, I actually had to turn to YouTube. I had never been on YouTube. I never had time to do those kinds of things. And I just would go into, again, prayer, meditation, whatever you'd like to call it. And I'd say, I don't know how to heal this. Please show me. Go on YouTube. And I swear to God, the first screen, you know how this works, that pops up was like, how to heal your childhood. And I'd go, what? And I'd listen to it. And honestly, there would be actionable steps. I love the actionable steps. Please don't just fluff talk to me or talk so above my head that I don't know what you're saying. So I find sometimes people speak so lofty that I'm like, I don't even know what you're saying. And I've been in it for a little while. So imagine how a newbie feels, right? So I found this woman who spoke simply and plainly, and I just went, oh my God, I understand you. And then I would do it. And then it would be this process. And because I knew that I had to follow this all up with a workbook, now, that's what's happening right now, I took notes the whole 4 years, which was the smartest thing I've ever done in my life, I swear. Because when I went to write the workbook, it was all there. The phases I went through, the different people I needed to forgive, the different types of trauma I needed to forgive, tools that worked, tools that didn't work, but worked for other people. I wanted to make sure that was in there too, right? I don't think there's just one way to heal. I think there's a lot of modalities, and the thing is to do it though, right? It's easy to just go, well, this modality doesn't work this isn't working for me. Well, then find another one. Like, don't just give up. Please don't just give up. It's all for you, and only you can do it. Nobody can do it for you, right? We cannot force other people to heal. It slays me to see how much pain some people are in and not to be able to help them.
And you can feel it when you're near them. It's that they're stuck. Either they're stuck a lot of times in the victim mentality without trying to be in the victim mentality, or they're stuck in the anger and bitterness phase. I think the anger phase and the victim, they're part of the normal process of it. But the goal is to not stay stuck in that on a continual basis. And I just love how you're journeying through it. And the fact that you're willing to get yourself stuck for a moment and just let it wash over you and then write. And you made such a positive turn and shift and change, and here you are. It's awesome.
I think
Yeah,
Gen
and
X is sitting at that place, right? Where we're older now and we're looking back and we're starting to go, no, it wasn't good that we did everything on our own. Yeah, we're super independent. We also don't know how to ask for help or to admit we
oh,
need it.
Yeah.
100%, yes. And Tina, too, another question. Did you ever end up in a healthy relationship after doing all this work for yourself?
I have not had a relationship since this. First of all, COVID. Oh, COVID hit, so that was not going to go anywhere again. I was super isolated, but also I had zero interest in entering another relationship until I healed. Now that I understood that like begets like and broken attracts broken and broken people attract broken people, and that is exactly why I was attracting broken people, right? So when I first heard the saying, you don't get what you want, you get what you are, I was so totally offended, right? Because of course you're thinking about all the narcissists you've dated and you're going, how does that clock? Broken people attract broken people. That's what that means. Narcissists are broken too, right? And the people that are attracting them are broken, right? There's healing that needs to be done. So I didn't want another partner. I did not even make myself remotely available until I had done the work, because now I understood I was only going to ever attract another narcissist. So, but now that I've healed, and again, it never stops healing, but now that I'm in a space where I'm so much healthier, so much, happier, and also I can spot a narcissist a mile away. Like you said, now when I see people and I see them misbehaving, I don't just see them misbehaving, I see they're broken. I go, man, I see you're broken. How do you see it? So I'm ready for another partner now that I have these tools in my tool belt. We'll see what happens, what comes along. I will never date someone who's healthy again. I'd rather be alone, who's unhealthy. Not ever again.
Oh,
that is for sure.
100%. Nobody wants to go back to that.
It's
No.
better to be single for the right than married for the wrong.
That's right.
Yeah. And so, Tina,
Yeah.
for our listeners out there that maybe they're in a relationship, or not necessarily a partner, but even a parent or a sibling or a boss or a friend or anybody, and they're in that relationship and there are those narcissistic tendencies, there are emotional abuse, but trauma bonds and all those things that they're trying to work on. What would you suggest for them to do? I know in your case, you became healthy, but I know also you put your foot down and left some of those relationships. So what kind of advice could you give our listeners that are maybe in that situation and just don't exactly know what to do about it?
I think this is a pretty broad statement, meaning it's going to depend how old you are. And if you are an adult and you are capable, to live on your own, and don't let your narcissist tell you you're not, because that's one of the first things they're going to pound into your head. Here's how I see it. Your narcissist will never change. Don't fool yourself. So ask yourself these questions. Do I walk on eggshells all the time, waiting for the other shoe to drop? Do I silence my voice because I'm afraid of starting an argument that I will lose, even when I'm right? Do I play small because if he notices me or she notices me, it means trouble? If you can answer yes to any of these, you are in a toxic relationship. You cannot save it. I'm not going to tell you that you can. You need to make an exit plan. And if it's really bad, if you're being hurt, don't even worry about your stuff. Your exit plan is to get out of there. Now, get out. There is hope. There is hope. Do not let the conditioning that was put on you from childhood, from your partner, from wherever it came from, to tell you who you are. You are a perfect child of God. Whatever God you believe in, I don't even care. You are a perfect child of God. And be that. And know your worth. nobody's coming to save you. Please, please, please save yourself. Other people will help you.
Perfectly said. Absolutely perfectly said. And that applies to any relationship. Yeah. Okay. Well, fantastic, Tina. Lizzie, do you have any other questions for Tina before we close up?
No, I've enjoyed just the whole interview, hearing your story. It's very encouraging, inspirational, and it's always nice that no matter what, we get another chance to, after healing, to just move forward.
Yeah, definitely.
Life just begins.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so, Tina, tell us where we can find you. Tell us where we can find your book. Also, to our audience, we will have links in the show notes that can connect you to Tina and her materials. But tell us, Tina, where we can go and look you up.
If you're just looking for my memoir, then it's on Amazon. You can go to any Amazon platform. It's called Finding My Sovereignty. Workbook will be out in June. You can also go to my author's website, which is www.sovereignandsage.com. And I spell it all, sovereignandsage.com. And the links to Amazon are there. So if you just want one stop where everything is.
Okay. Well, Tina, thank you so much. We really appreciated your time and your story, and your advice is truly sage wisdom. Really good stuff for our listeners. And for those of you that want to find Tina, you have the information, and we're excited about her workbook, and I'm sure it's going to be a big help to you.